The Japanese-era name, also known as Gengo, is the first of the two elements that identify years in the Japanese-era calendar scheme. The second element, a number, counts the years since the era began. As in many other systems, there is no year zero. For example, the first year of the Heisei period was 1989 AD, CE, or Heisei 1, so the year 2015 CE in this scheme is Heisei 27. As elsewhere in East Asia, the use of Nengo was originally derived from Chinese imperial practice. Although the Japanese system is independent of the Chinese, Korean and Vietnamese era naming systems. Unlike some of these other similar systems, Japanese-era names are still in use. Government officers usually require era names and years for official papers. The four era names used since the end of the Edo period in 1868 can be abbreviated by taking the first letter of their Romanized names. For example, S55 means Showa 55, and H22 stands for Heisei 22. At 64 years, Showa is the longest era to date. Overview. The system on which the Japanese-era names are based originated in China in 140 BC, and was adopted by Japan in AD 645, during the reign of Emperor Kotoku. Although the regular practice of proclaiming successive era names was interrupted in the late 7th century, it was permanently re-adopted in 701 during the reign of Emperor Momu. Since then, era names have been used continuously up through the present day. Historical Nengo. Prior to the Meiji period, era names were decided by court officials and were subjected to frequent change. A new era name was usually proclaimed within a year or two after the ascension of a new emperor. These 3 years are respectively known as Kakure, Kakuin, and Kakumai, and collectively known as Sankaku. Era names were also changed due to other felicitous events or natural disasters. In historical practice, the first day of a Nengo starts whenever the emperor chooses, and the first year continues until the next Lunar New Year, which is understood to be the start of the Nengo's second year. Era names indicate the various reasons for their adoption. For instance, the Nengo Wada, during the Nara period, was declared due to the discovery of copper deposits in Chichibu. Most Nengo are composed of 2 kanji, except for a short time during the Nara period when 4 kanji names were sometimes adopted to follow the Chinese trend. Tenpyo Kanpo, Tenpyo Shoho, Tenpyo Hoji and Tenpyo Jingo are some famous Nengo names that use 4 characters. Since the Heian period, Confucian thoughts and ideas have been reflected in era names, such as Daido, Konin and Tencho. Although there currently exist a total of 247 Japanese era names, only 72 kanji have been used in composing them. Out of these 72 kanji, 30 of them have been used only once, while the rest have been used repeatedly in different combinations. Nengo. In modern Japan, Mutsuhito assumed the throne in 1867, during the 3rd year of the Kari era. On October 23, 1868, the era name was changed to Meiji, and a one reign, one era name system was adopted, wherein era names would change only upon imperial succession. This system is similar to the now defunct Chinese system used since the days of the Ming dynasty. The Japanese Nengo system differs from Chinese practice, in that in the Chinese system the era name was not updated until the year following the emperor's death. In modern practice, the first year of a Nengo starts immediately upon the emperor's ascension to the throne and ends on December 31. Subsequent years follow the Gregorian calendar. For example, the Meiji era lasted until July 30, 1912, when the emperor died and the Taisho era was proclaimed. 1912 is therefore known as both Meiji 45 and Taisho 1, although Meiji technically ended on July 30 with Mutsuhito's death. This practice, implemented successfully since the days of Meiji but never formalized, became law in 1979 with the passage of the era name law. Thus, since 1868, there have only been 4 era names assigned: Meiji, Taisho, Showa and Heisei, each corresponding with the rule of only one emperor. Upon death, the emperor is thereafter referred to by the era of his reign. For example, Mutsuhito is posthumously known as Emperor Meiji. It should be noted that it is protocol in Japan that the reigning emperor be referred to as Tenno Haika or Kunjo Tenno. To call the current emperor by the current era name, i.e., Heisei, even in English, is a faux pas, as this is, and will be, his posthumous name. Use of the emperor's given name is rare, considered as vulgar behavior, in Japanese. Periods without era names. The era name system that was introduced by Emperor Kotoku was abandoned after his death. No era names were designated between 654 and 686. The system was briefly reinstated by Emperor Temu in 686, but was again abandoned upon his death approximately 2 months later. In 701, Emperor Momu once again reinstated the era name system, and it has continued uninterrupted through today. Although use of the Gregorian calendar for historical dates became increasingly common in Japan, the traditional Japanese system demands that dates be written in reference to era names. The apparent problem introduced by the lack of era names was resolved by identifying the years of an imperial reign as a period. Although in modern Japan posthumous imperial names correspond with the eras of their reign, this is a relatively recent concept, introduced in practice during the Meiji period and instituted by law in 1979. Therefore, the posthumous names of the emperors and empresses who reigned prior to 1868 may not be taken as era names by themselves. For example, the year 572, the year in which Emperor Bidatsu assumed the chrysanthemum throne, is properly written as, and not, although it may be abbreviated as such. By incorporating both proper era names and posthumous imperial names in this manner, it is possible to extend the Nengo system to cover all dates from 660 BC through today. Unofficial era name system. In addition to the official era name system, in which the era names are selected by the imperial court, one also observes, primarily in the ancient documents and epigraphs of shrines and temples, unofficial era names called Shinengo, also known as Ginengo or Anengo. Currently, there are over 40 confirmed Shinengo, most of them dating from the Middle Ages. Shinengo used prior to the re-establishment of the era name system in 701 are usually called Itsuneno. A list of Shinengo and more information can be seen in the Japanese language entry on. Because official records of Shinengo are lacking, the range of dates to which they apply is often unclear. For example, the well-known Itsune no Hakuho is normally said to refer to AD 650 to 654, a poetic synonym for the Hakushi era. However, alternate interpretations exist. For example, in the Nishoriki, Hakuho refers to AD 661 to 683, and in some Middle Age temple documents, Hakuho refers to AD 672 to 685. Thus, Shinengo may be used as an alternative way of dating periods for which there is no official era name. Other well-known Itsuneno and Shinengo include Hoko, Suzaku, Fukutoku, Miraku and Meroku. The most recent Shinengo is Sero, named for the Russo-Japanese War. Kyushu Nengo Edo period scholar Surumina Shikenobu proposed that Kyushu Nengo, said to have been used in ancient Kumazo, should also be considered a form of Shinengo. This claim is not generally recognized by the academic community. Lists of the proposed Kyushu Nengo can be seen in the Japanese language entries and software support. Since the release of Java 8, the Japanese calendar is supported in the new Date and Time API for the year Meiji 6 onwards.